Storage and shops are only accessible in the middle of battle. Why do we keep on rolling into a war with weapons that are as useful as plastic spoons, you ask? Well, it's because our blacksmith very boldly set up shop in the middle of a battlefield, so we kinda get shafted in the being prepared department. Shop storage and visit music is bad enough to be considered a crime. Someone must have thought it'd be really funny to auto-tune the sound of vomit and sprinkle it on all the buildings you have to interact with in the game, and honestly, kinda funny. Cannot change team formation at the start. The game just spits everyone out in a random position and then tells you to figure it out like a cheap babysitter giving a child a book when the child doesn't even know what words are yet. Passing items count as a move. Here, have this healing potion. Oh, thanks. Aren't you gonna go fight? No, enemies focus Marth all the time. This is both good and bad because it's good to use Marth strategically to distract enemies, but it's also simultaneously the best way for the Great Prince Marth to remind you he is as reliable as a school security guard. Healers can't level up. Basically means there are civilians with a shiny stick and robe we force into war, and for some reason we let the buff shopkeep stay behind a bloody desk while we bring the women, children, and old men to war against legions of trained soldiers. America, explain! Cannot see danger range for enemies. This game makes you count squares to know how far enemies can move, and I don't like Japan's attempts to shove preschool math down my throat. Thank you very much. You have to end turns manually. Not gonna lie, this doesn't feel like a true issue this game has that makes the experience worse from an objective perspective, but the lazy millennial etched into my genetic code needs to complain about the lack of automatic functions in the 30-year-old game, so here we are. Healing music sounds menacing. I won't even need to convince you. Just imagine if a doctor sat you down and told you, we just need to take some of your blood, and this starts playing. Probably shouldn't have healing music sound like the background music to a boss in a Castlevania game. The game doesn't explain stats thoroughly. I played 40 plus hours of this game and have no idea what weapon level means. Could very well mean I'm just stupid. Nah, the game never explains how to use boosters. Apparently Fire Emblem characters eat rings and medals to get stronger. How silly of me to not have known this obvious fact. Falchion can only be used on the last map. We talk this sword up like it's the cure for cancer for the entire game, and we get to use it for a grand total of 1 stage at the end of the game. And at this point it's about as useful as a wet sheet of toilet paper, so I struggle to see why I should care about this overhyped toothpick. Only one unique crit animation. Moth crit. Fire Emblem made crits look cool, so of course the only one who has a unique crit animation in the first game is our brave Prince of Altia Marth, who is only about as strong as a small bird with no talent. So I guess he needed something to make him look cool in front of all the people who disappoint so frequently. Mostly me. Falchion doesn't have a unique crit animation. Attacking normally with the Falchion looks like a Marth crit but with clumps of floating Barbie glitter that takes 1 full moon rotation to activate, and ends with the most unnecessarily stylistic backflip known to Pixels. So I'm guessing the Fire Emblem team didn't know what to do for a special Falchion crit animation because the only upgrade from there would require fireworks, confetti, and a Super Saiyan 3 fusion dance transformation. The bars under units during fights are not explained. The problem is that this game is all judged by numbers, but for some reason they added this numberless bar under fights and then tell you to swing your sword around until it makes sense. Cannot check matchup bars before initiating combat. Can't really complain about this without sounding as soft as a Snuggie fresh out of the dryer, but this is genuinely irritating, because how are you meant to make a strategy when you have no idea who can kill what? I mean, by the time I got to the final level, half of my units just became crash dummies to make sure it was safe for our bold, courageous leader and Prince of Altia Marth. Never says the stats and level limits are 20. Sure, maybe I wasn't paying attention when I was trying to level up characters who had already reached their cap, but here's my rebuttal. Why is 20 the number they picked for the cap? Who picks 20 for anything? Even the legal drinking ages are either 18 or 21, and anything that costs $20 is either a $10 item trying to be bougie or a $50 knockoff product being sold in a 99-cent store. And 2020. I rest my case. Magic does a set amount of damage regardless of level or stats, except when crit. Mages are at the top of the Fire Emblem food chain. Literally anytime I encountered a mage with any of my non-mage units, it was like watching grown men devolve into diaper-pissing infants. Which is fair when you realize a level 1 mage does more damage than a fire-breathing dragon. Some villages can't be accessed because of enemy thieves. Literal rat people. They make me sick. Honestly, wouldn't be surprised if they exclusively lived off half-eaten blocks of cheddar cheese and they smelled of raw sewage. Sorry, Julian. No way to grind. Can't prepare units for upcoming battles. This game kind of operates like Russian roulette in that you have to designate units you want to train and then hope that they're useful later. Because otherwise you're going to be rolling up to the championship game to only realize you brought the B team to the finals, and the rules are you can't leave the building until you win a match. You know, like torture. Characters never say which items they can and can't use. I know it's hard to admit you suck, but when in the middle of a war, I'm gonna have to ask you to swallow your pride and tell me you don't know how to use my most valuable bow and arrow. Because I'd rather jump off a cliff than accept the fact that the great bow partition was lost because Gordon the Archer died while holding a weapon he doesn't even know how to use, even though he's trained to use it.